Welcome to another episode of the Right People, Right Places podcast. I'm your host, Raul Mendoza, and I have the absolute pleasure of having Ryan Vassitas here on an episode. We've been actually working on this for a while. It's been a busy time here at Michael's Construction, and it's been full on for Ryan in joining the team here. I think you're coming up to a couple of years, right?
Year and a half almost.
Year and a half.
Yep.
Probably feels like 6, right?
It does. Oh yeah, absolutely does.
So anyway, it's so good to have Ryan on. Ryan comes with a wealth of experience in a variety of environments, from retail to now construction to technology, and leading, building, talent acquisition, and building teams. And one of the things that we're going to hit on today is the subject of building proactive recruiting teams, being lean and mean and still being able to deliver results for the internal business and also be able to be ahead of the game. I think that's the name of the game nowadays. You can't, when you need it, it's already too late.
Absolutely.
So, but enough of me talking. Let's get Ryan talking here. Ryan, it's so good to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
So let's give the audience just a little bit of a flavor of your background. Obviously, I kind of teed it up a little bit, but would love to kind of hear your story a little bit and how that's kind of led you to where you're at today here at Michael's.
Yeah, so goes back 15 years in recruitment and talent acquisition. Like most, I think you fall into it. I graduated college in around 08, 09, and in the midst of everybody looking for jobs, right? And so did a ton of interviews when I first graduated, and always thought it'd be really interesting to be on the other side. Understand what people are looking for, understand what they're, what you're trying to get for someone in a company, right? So I took a role that was just strictly interviewing call center folks, just kind of turn and burn as much as you can, get it out.
Cut your teeth
with tons of interviews every day, like 8 to 10 interviews a day. So you learn pretty quick, what a company may look for in that sense. And so from there, went more into the agency side, again, cutting your teeth pretty quickly. It's a grind when you're in that and you're paid on people you hire. So did that for a few years, actually went out on my own for a little bit and just consulted in a bunch of different industries, financial, retail, technology, all over the place. And then slowly realized that I loved being part of one culture, one group. Really wanted to just be a part of that and grow the teams and the organization through that. So joined a corporation at that point. Really cut my teeth there with a very good leader that I had, which is, I think, one really important thing to do throughout your career is follow leaders, not paychecks. And got one there that brought us all as recruiters into talent advisors. So I got my first real understanding of what a company really needs out of a recruiter, instead of just doing interviews and scheduling and looking through applications. So I did that for a long time. Unfortunately, they were going another route and decided to go RFP or RPO model. And then from there joined basically Layer 1 Media, where there was a small company, kind of startup mentality, and jumped in as kind of sole HR and recruitment there. And that was very interesting to just go from a 2,000 person organization to 15. And so you get to know everybody very well. You get to understand what we're looking for, the goal of the whole company. You get to see the big picture pretty quickly. And just that took me kind of through COVID, and just as a small company through COVID, not everybody can survive. We did, but I wasn't pushing myself at that point. And so jumped into retail, did that for about 3 years, built a team there that allowed us to just hire retail folks, part-time, full-time, students, kids, full-time individuals all over the place. And then after that, this Michael's role came to me, and sat down with the VP now, Jamie Milkey, and we clicked very quickly on what Michael's is looking for. They're in the process of building an entire recruitment team. So I had to jump in at that opportunity, and here we are a year and a half later, and just doing our best to keep up with the construction industry, to say the least.
It is an ever-changing industry, and I know you're heading into a busy time here into the fall, which probably should have been a busy time into the summer, but things change, and that's the nature of the game now. So appreciate you sharing that background. I think one of the things that stood out to me in what you said was the importance of leadership buy-in. I think, not only for growth, your growth, but also for buy-in to build things and strategies that will be beneficial to the company as you're attracting, retaining, and developing talent.
Yeah.
I think that's something I want to come back to, and I think, and maybe that's something that you can even speak to a little bit now. Actually, I want to, what would you say are, maybe you can speak about leadership experiences and how that's shaped your perspective on building recruiting teams that are both lean and effective. Again, we're in a day and age where technology is moving so fast and you can do more with less, but at the same time, the teams, the big talent acquisition teams of 10, 20 plus orgs are, those days are long gone.
Sure.
And we're in this kind of evolution right now of this. And I feel like you kind of hit this earlier. You kind of were pioneering this before it was a thing, but again, I guess maybe you could speak to that, but maybe anchor it in, that relationship with a leader.
Yeah, it's detrimental to having a successful recruitment team. You can, I'm sure anybody listening has run into an organization that just sees recruitment as go post the job.
Yep.
The people are going to line up for us and then bring them in. It's that simple, right? That's all recruiting is.
If only it was that simple.
But obviously it's not,
yes,
right? And
yes.
so you need buy-in from your direct leader, and then also either on the operations side or just corporate side, the leaders there. Because if they're not going to be bought in with you and the communication that the team needs to be successful, everyone's going to fail, and it's just not going to work out because we're not all on the same page. We're not looking for that ideal kind of candidate profile for the company.
Yep.
The technology side or the technical expertise in some roles is always going to change, but in the end, you're always looking for that kind of value set that the company is looking for.
Yes.
That's going to succeed. And so, if all of your leaders aren't on the same page, you can't push your team forward.
Yep.
You can't build the team. They can't jump in on the same boat to just all go forward to solve one problem, right? So to have a leader that always has your back just does wonders for the team. So if you can knock down doors for your team, if that leader can knock down doors for the whole team, it's going to just make everybody more successful, more motivated too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's half the battle is you get a lot of no's in recruitment, right? You get a lot of people, no thanks or declines or whatever it is, and that's just the way of the business. And so add that up with no's from inside your company, it just keeps building, and then people are like, well, kind of screw this, I'm out, I'm gonna go find somewhere else.
Totally.
And then you're just constantly rebuilding your team. So if you can get that buy-in and just that backing from any leadership whatsoever, that you're gonna hire to values over skills up front, then you're gonna do well, and you're kind of all on one mission, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you're tapping into a couple of things there. I mean, leadership and values. I think, if you don't have the right values, you're not going to have the right leadership, because the leadership have to buy into those values. But then, so it's getting that value alignment, getting that leadership alignment, but then also having that leader that, like you said, just breaks open doors for you and for your team, and gives you the ability to own the trajectory of how this is going to work, Yeah,
it's key into just understanding what everybody needs, right? And if you're constantly getting no's and just why can't we find that perfect person that checks all the boxes?
Yeah.
Right, that's a simple one that a lot of people probably run into is, we checked 5 of the 8 boxes, why aren't we making an offer?
Right.
Like, we can't just keep interviewing people and having that talent advisor mindset going in, and keeping those recruiters motivated to do that and be able to think outside the box. And if all those ideas keep getting pushed down, again, they're going to just start looking. And
yes.
It's kind of to no one's fault but the company's that they're not allowing you to be creative.
Yes.
I mean, recruitment is a tiny bit of a science, but a lot more of an art.
Yes.
And so you have to let people kind of do that artistic, creative side a little bit.
Yep.
When it comes to building relationships, communicating, selling. Like, we're part salesman in this role.
Yes.
And so the more that you're allowed to do that in your own personality, like all those values align, but you're going to do it your own way, your own elevator pitch.
Yeah.
That's what keeps people around on your team to just keep growing with the organization.
I love it. It's personal. It's personal for you.
It has to be.
It's personal for your team, and people want to come to do work that's meaningful, and meaning that can be defined differently by every person, but if they can, part of meaningful work is it's personal, right? So I think that's fantastic. I love what you said there. I think there's so much there, even just from you kind of tapped into this issue of recruiting not being transactional, it being advisory. I think that's so important, because I think that's what was the issue really with these large recruiting teams. Facebook and Meta had this, Amazon, large recruiting teams. And it's kind of like, why do we have such a large structure and the results, the ROI is so minimal, and I think it's because there isn't this advisory mindset. There isn't this ownership mindset that says, hey, what's the ROI on this? And not just the director of talent acquisition owning that or the CHRO, but actually the recruiter for the businesses that they're supporting. So it's huge what you're saying. I think that's why these models broke down, and I don't know, with that said, would you say there was a particular experience? Because I feel like you've been, from what, even just kind of the pre-podcast conversation that we were having here, you were mentioning, I feel like you've always had like lean teams. You've always been in a situation where you've had to build lean. Was there a critical moment? Was that something that was brought upon you, would you say, because of economic situation, or was it, kind of something that rose from you that was visionary in the moment, or was it a combination of both?
I think what I like out of a team, it stemmed from it that way to where I want to hire individuals that want to be empowered and be autonomous in what they do. Almost running a corporate environment like an agency in a sense, to where your departments, your operating companies, your whatever that you're responsible for are yours. I'm not going to tell you how to run them. I'm going to not sit over your shoulder and listen to phone screens. I'm going to be there, again, just to be able to have higher level conversations for you, but I want you to own it. And I think that relates to just impact for the recruiter themselves. They feel like this is their group, they're responsible for it, gives them more empowerment to do that. And then the more they do that, the better relationships are, the more trust is built, and that speeds up process itself, right? The more you get requests for new roles, when you have that relationship, the easier it is to start. You know that, John over there is asking for a role. You know him already. You know exactly what he looks for on his team. You know what the team culture is. You can just start. You can just go.
Absolutely.
So you don't need a lot more people to handle all of John's roles. You know what they are. You can start going on it. And those interviews go a lot faster, and then add in some technology to that to help mitigate some of the administrative tasks. You're not eliminating people, but you're allowing the team to do what they need to do in an efficient manner. And so you don't need 20, 30 recruiters just to handle, a couple hundred recs.
Right.
You can keep their rec load at a decent number, but allow them to just do what they need to do it, organize their recs themselves, organize the phone screens themselves, and then again, be there as a mentor when they run into issues with a candidate. I didn't like what they said here, what would you have asked, or whatever it is. You can jump in and help there as a leader, but I'm giving them full autonomy to go run with it. And then hopefully you never have to step in and be like, why aren't we getting feedback to managers, or all the things you might have to do as a leader, but they feel responsible. They don't want to let myself down, the company down, that group down. It's probably more of that than anything. They don't want to let the group they built the trust with down. So, I don't then have to worry about any of the disciplinary side of things as a leader, because they're already invested, right? They're invested in those groups and that relationship. Just like anybody, you have a friend that needs you, you're going to go help them, right? And so you have that relationship built. That's number one thing I try to push on any new recruiter on the team is first month, go build relationships. Just go set meetings, learn about how they work, what they do, go on a project site, do whatever it takes to just know them and their groups.
I love it. So much there. So much there, man. You're really dropping them today. It's so good. You start off with leadership, and leadership removing barriers, and not only leadership, working with the CHR and director of talent acquisition, but how that leadership is affected by values and informed by values. And you talk about autonomy and ownership, and you don't have to keep a team accountable if they're accountable to themselves,
Exactly.
right? It's just, if you give them autonomy and trust, they're going to own it, you know. And that doesn't work for everybody.
No.
But if you create that kind of team culture, then it's about the result. It's not about how many people you can get to create that same result. And I think that's where I think corporate structures can break down so much, is it's all about hiring more people. Let's throw more people to the problem, and that's actually not solving the problem. That's actually exacerbating the problem, right? So I think, I mean, so much in what you're saying, I think it is, I'm seeing values, leadership, autonomy, ownership, and, you know, just kind of this, I'm kind of visualizing it all.
It all trickles down, right? And
yeah.
it trickles down to the biggest thing that everybody is looking for is retention. You want to keep your people, right?
Yep.
So the more that all of that stems down to that new hire, the better it is, right?
Yeah.
Then those roles don't keep opening up. You're not doing the same role over and over again. That gives variety to the team to recruit for different things. You don't feel like you're hitting a wall because you're still opening another role every 6 months, the same manager, same role, right?
Right.
So you just, it all trickles down to just keeping people around. And again, Michael's here does such a good job of that. We have so much tenure here. It shows in all that ownership that they give everybody here. So
yeah, you kind of alluded to this already with regards to giving your teammates autonomy and ownership, and I think this plays into this. But everybody wants proactive recruiting. Everyone wants, I think the biggest thing that recruiting has against it to date is that most companies are reactive.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question for you is, this idea of, in your experience, why is this approach so costly and effective?
When you're reactive, you're obviously already behind the ball because they're already needing someone. There's already a gap on a team somewhere. And for us especially, it could be a delay in a project. That can cause a delay in project. It can cause a lot more headache in the field than it does internally here. So if we can sit down and have conversations on strategy, if we're in a new market, new city, whatever it is, with Michael's, we're nationwide. So we could be in a new city every year with our projects, right? So we have to understand that market. We have to understand how many people they're looking for. Salary ranges in each city is going to be a little bit different depending on the region in the States here. So if we can get that all up front before we have someone leave or a project is starting, right? We're lucky enough to understand when projects are won and kind of understand when they're going to start. So we'll know we'll have a gap to be able to recruit for people. So if we can have those talent advisor meetings up front and ask the questions, what does this look like? Do we have any internals that are moving over to it? That's collaboration on the HR side, because we have business partners that have those conversations on a regular basis. So we may not be sitting down strategy with just the hiring manager, but also our HR business partner to understand that. So if we can do that up front, it just allows us to be prepared to let them know, like, okay, this market is not great. We're going to need 2 months to go find that person. We're going to start now. Or I already have a pipeline of people because we were in that project last year.
Yeah.
We can start reaching out to them, but when can you actually hire them, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to start the process and then have someone sit for a month because they're probably going to be gone. Right. So we have to push back a little bit. We're not ready yet to give this offer, then let's wait till we start reaching out. Right. Or, it's soft reach outs, just understanding where people are at. So as much as people may not think you can have a pipeline, you really, you can, in a sense. You can have that kind of talent community around you. Yes. To where not all of them are going to be ready. They're already in jobs or whatever it is, but those soft reach outs get them to at least reach out when they are ready. Yeah. And so you never know when that timing is going to be perfect, and you already got someone, you fill something in a week. That's right. Amazing. That's best case scenario with a lot of our roles, but relaying all the information we have on the market, on what it typically takes to hire a project manager, let's call it, giving that to the hiring team so they are prepared to going forward. And then just constant feedback, constant communication. I push on the team on a regular basis to just give that update and no update. Send that email, send that text, make that call of like, hey, I interviewed 5 people this week, but they're all garbage. Yeah. So you haven't seen anybody, but I'm still working on it. Yeah. if you don't send that, they start assuming their role's at the bottom of the list. You haven't even started. Where are we? What's going on?
Right.
And we don't want that. That kills the relationship. It kills the trust.
Yes.
So again, update if no update is better than silence.
That's right. No, communication kills trust. I think that's a very that's going to be a short that goes out, I'm sure. It kills trust. It kills customers. It kills everything, right? Because it's the lifeblood of any project, any organization. If that's not happening, no one knows what's happening. You know, it's not. I think there's so much in what you said there. I think, this idea of being advisory, and I think what's happened is, in the past, a director of talent acquisition can be administrative and performance evaluating the team. But it's like what you're talking about is strategy. You're talking about and tactics, so it's like the big picture strategy is, okay, what are we hiring for? What are we preparing for? And how can we begin that process of building a community of talent ready for just-in-time recruiting? So I talk me through that a little bit. Like, what are the things that you have to build? I think communication's part of it, you mentioned, but what are the things you have to build at the leadership layer to enable that kind of proactivity in recruiting? So
I think the biggest thing that I've seen over the years is half the battle is education. It's educating the hire managers on all the little things we might have to do to get someone hired, right? It can be anything from how many phone screens we might need to do to get one person, understanding the funnel, understanding offer negotiations, right? We can't sit on people with offers. If we're going to negotiate, let me know your max number right away. I'm not going to go to it right away, but I need to know what we can move into so we can make that negotiation faster. So a lot of times it's just pure education on how our process works, what we have to do to get things up and running, understanding timelines. And so from there, once that's all out there and to these hiring managers, and even at the leadership level, if I'm working with another director or VP or president of an operating company, it's trying to understand their organization a little bit better, maybe give suggestions on, okay, if we're going to take a long time to go get this senior PM, would you take a couple associate PMs that we could work our way up and bring in underneath other individuals, right? It's how much time do we have? And a lot of time, sometimes it can just be, we need the senior one, let's just go after it, right? It's that simple. But other times we can have that discussion around, we're going to career fair season. We could see a lot of recent grads that could be really good candidates for us in a year or two when all these projects start hitting and starting. So having those discussions about what we're doing on the back end that they don't see because they're not in it day to day, and we have to remember that on a regular basis. Like, they're not doing what we do every day. They're doing the field stuff, which we don't know what they do sometimes, right? So it's that back and forth of understanding that, and as long as we can get to that point of everybody on the same page, we can put together a plan, and that's I think eases everybody's mind. Like, okay, Ryan's team has a plan for this. We can trust them, and we're going to get our communication along the way. So that conversation is easy. They know what's coming, and if we hit on our marks, then it's even better, right? They know they can then relay that down to the level below, and just when they need something, let's talk strategy up front. And sometimes it doesn't take long, and other times, we got to really sit down and try to understand what we're getting into. Because we will have specialized roles that we've never heard of before, like most recruiters get. But if we hear that up front and we got enough run-up time, we can start doing our research then, instead of reactive to like just post it and see if we get anybody that's a hydrographic surveyor, which there's probably 30 of those in the area, right? So we got to start working on it right away. So it's level setting that plan, educating the hiring teams that are there, and sometimes it's pushing back on process too, right? I want to do 5 interviews. No, you don't. No, you don't. If we want to have 5 people interview, let's knock it out in a day. Right? It's adjusting, finding that middle ground, living in that gray area. There's not always black and white in what we do. So living in the gray, adjusting that, and just kind of making both sides happy, right? So it's there's lots of things you can push back on, and sometimes you have to. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed at the end with, okay, it took us 4 weeks just to interview. Like, that's crazy. We shouldn't be doing that. Right. Oh man, so much there. I mean, it sounds like your education is continuous education. Like, you're having regular conversations with
hiring teams, executive teams, keeping them abreast of what's happening, what's coming. You're trying to stay on top of what is coming and confirming those things, because those things can change. I mean, construction quickly. Projects and timelines, I'm sure, can change very quickly. Technology speeds up that even more so. So would you say that that's like 75, 80% of your job at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of that. I mean, people management too, that's a big side of it. But yeah, definitely the education piece, because the structure of recruitment at Michaels before this wasn't as I guess structured as it is now, to being like its own center of excellence, to where that's a lot of the education that we're giving, and having those strategies is talking through our process again, but also talking through the technology we have to speed some of that up. So we have tools that allow us to focus on certain markets that we're going to be into, and add marketing dollars behind some of that. And I mean, a good chunk is a lot of that education and strategy, but then it's I think a lot of it too is getting feedback from the team. They're in it day to day, in the weeds. They're seeing what the managers are asking. So I need to take all that in on the people management side with our one-on-ones, with team meetings, whatever it is, and actively listen to what it might be a complaint, right? It might be a vent session, which is absolutely fine. I want one-on-ones to be that. Everyone needs to get something out every once in a while. It's perfectly fine. But take that in and be like, all right, well, maybe I need to go sit down with that director and like really level set what we can do and what is in the market, and talk through that and just give them some feedback. And usually that conversation goes well, because maybe they just didn't know, right? A lot of people don't know what they don't know. I mean, most people. So it's just getting that information to them, and like, look, it's going to take this much time to go get that person you want, because who knows, they could be combining two roles into one, or it's a niche technology, whatever it is. It's just
time of year. There's so many
exactly. I mean, not everybody understands that cycle of timing with holidays and back to school that we know, because we're in it on a day-to-day basis. So we have to sometimes look, we're hitting 4th of July weekend. We're going to see 2 weeks of PTO from a lot of people, and no one's going to answer our messages. Or end of the year, right? December gets quiet. So we got to make sure that we're ahead of that, and letting the teams know we're getting ahead of that.
Totally. This is just popping into my head right now. I was just talking to one of your team members, Brandon, and we were talking about how you were a hockey player, right?
No, baseball player.
Baseball player, okay. I was going to say, if there is an analogy that kind of comes to mind, a lot of blocking and tackling that's happening there. From your side, you're blocking, tackling, you're also educating, you're trying to stay ahead of the concerns with the leadership team. I was going to say, if you had an analogy, a sports analogy that you can give us, but if not, I was thinking hockey, but now, I don't know, is there a baseball analogy that comes to mind for this type of thing?
They're probably, I mean, with baseball, each play, you're evaluating the field, you're looking at who's on base, who's up to bat, and that evaluation changes with whatever situation is in front of you. Right? And so
it's dynamic.
Kind of perfect example there is, let's say one of our operating companies ramps up and they need a bunch of people. I need to twist those knobs on the recruitment side to see who's low on their recs that can help out. Right? Baseball analogy, we got a big situation at the end of the game. We need a designated hitter to come in because we know he's a good hitter, right? We need to kind of twist that game plan a little bit, because that timeline changed, and we just need some more people, more bodies on it, because time, right? Time is our biggest enemy, because we can't work 24 hours a day. So how can we bring in more people to knock out more phone screens, go source a little bit more, and just understand what we're needing? And that's kind of what's evolved my team, even in general, is allowing everybody to understand the full business, not just their opcos sometimes, but let them jump into others to help out. And then also bringing in a sourcing specialist and understanding that we know this role is going to take a lot of sourcing. Let's give that to our sourcing specialist to let the recruiter handle all their other recs as they make sure nothing falls behind. And then they just get people submitted to them, and they do their job as a recruiter and go through the whole process.
I love it. You were on the spot there. I mean, first of all, I got the background incorrect there with you being in hockey, but not only that, you were able on the spot come up with an analogy of pinch hitters, which it sounds like you have a team of pinch hitters that could step up to the plate. And it's interesting because I know we've had conversations about this. There's been an evolution to your team. You went from having a pretty small team or a pretty just agile team, and in recent months, I think you've developed these pinch hitters that are kind of leads for each area. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, with the company setup, we have kind of 3 buckets of area for us. One that's mainly construction, foundation side, our energy side, that's a lot of power, renewable energy, and then our corporate side, that's just all the functions that support everything else. And so everybody, there's a couple recruiters in each of those buckets, and they really focus on those groups. Again, relationship, building trust, all that good stuff. But I probably have 1 or 2 others that are able to be that pinch hitter and jump in when necessary. Maybe their operating companies aren't as busy, so I know that they can jump around. Others that only focus, let's say I have 1 recruiter that really focuses on the safety side of our business because it's so big for us. We're going to make sure we have dedicated resource for that. But at some points in the year, they're not as busy, and so we can jump her around to certain areas that she's worked on in the past to really just jump in, no questions asked, easy does it, go ahead.
Yep.
And that's actually helped us internationally as well.
Amazing.
Canada was a big portion of what we did for a while until we hired a team up there to really handle that side of it. And so same thing, if something gets crazy in Canada, the recruiter up there can let me know, we can jump in and help, and then we kind of get everything back to normal. So it's understanding the big picture on a regular basis. It's constantly looking at our jobs 1 report and seeing where that's coming from. Those simple check-ins with leaders too, like, hey, how's your OPCO going? Like, what's going on in your world? And just understanding, again, active listening to what you're hearing, and all right, maybe we need to sit down with the team and talk about the construction side for us. So.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think I want to go back to something you said earlier regarding technology as we kind of wrap up this conversation. Talk to me about some of the technologies that you and your team use to drive the results. Because again, that's the other part of the equation, right? If you're going to have a lean team, you got to have the right technologies, not to take over someone's job, but to allow your team to actually focus on those things that are going to bring the biggest bang for the buck. And a lot of that is the strategy, the thinking, the conversation, the relationship building. The AI can't do that. So I'm kind of curious to hear what technologies your recruiters are armed with to do what they got to do in that regard.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest things we did up front when I first started was just evaluating what we had, and it wasn't a lot. And so just kind of doubling down on the major job boards, right, with Indeed, LinkedIn, and just using some of the dollars that we had to be able to put more behind the sponsored jobs and allowing the team to be able to use that to their advantage. And then, we didn't have any scheduling technology, so we added that. Kind of updated our ATS to allow a better workflow, more automated on just the simple things, pushing people through process, getting things scheduled, getting offers out, those things really just added some time saving. And then, AI is obviously a big topic conversation right now, and in my mind, it's another tool, right? I think we're at that age of, when email was invented. It's a tool to communicate. It wasn't taking anybody's job. AI is
Did you hear that, everybody? It's not taking anybody's job. Recruiters, stop being nervous.
AI is another tool for us, right?
Yes, that's right.
The one we use the most is for our phone screens to allow the recruiters to be more active in the conversation, not have to keep up with notes. We all get fast talkers sometimes, someone that talks too much. We don't need to write all that down anymore to keep up typing. It just gets sent to us in a summary at the end. Maybe you need to edit a little bit, but it's been saving, about 10 minutes of phone screen for everybody after the fact it's over.
It's amazing.
So you just add that up over a year, you're saving days upon days for the team. And so just allowing them to be able to do that, more organized for the hiring manager to see it, it's just, it's a time saver, and that's what we've really focused on, just trying to get rid of some of that administrative side of things. On just that day-to-day work, that just gives them more time to be proactive and have the free time not to be on a phone screen, but to just sit there and do some research, understand data, and just dive into it so they're more prepared for meetings with their managers. Yeah,
so good. I think it's the little things that make a big difference, and I think thanks for dispelling the fear with the whole AI thing. Anyway, you spoke to culture and strategy, I think, stakeholder management. As we kind of wrap up the conversation here, closing takeaways, if you had one piece of advice for HR leaders trying to do more with less in recruiting, what would that be?
It's a good question.
Take time to think about it.
I think I go back to, how we built this team is the focus on relationships, and just, I think that just, again, saves us so much time in the long run. It may be tough at first because you may be a new recruiter into an organization that you haven't been at this size, and you just, it's nervous to talk to experts in their field. But, again, back to leadership buy-in as well. It's everybody here is willing to share that knowledge. And so building that relationship, getting in those meetings and being curious, be curious on what they do and understand what they do, and ask the dumb questions sometimes. Like, they're not expecting us to be a project manager, so we need to learn that to better understand their role, so we can ask the right questions up front, save them time on the on-site interviews if we can knock someone out in the phone screen because we knew a little bit more about the job. So the more we can be curious, the more we can actively listen to those managers, and that in itself builds trust and relationships alone, because they're going to know that you care. Right? That's half the battle. If they know you care and you're just not another rec you're opening, they're going to be just as bought in as you are. And so I think it seems simple, and it's not to do. It's not to do sometimes, but we all do it. We all build relationships. We all meet new people. So just kind of go into it with that mindset of like you're just having a conversation, and it's just a little bit more work focused. So
I love it. These are the fundamentals, right? I think you said it so beautifully there. Like, not another rec, a relationship. Not treating hiring managers as another rec, another job to work on, but actually getting to know them. And vulnerability, just part of relationships, vulnerability.
100%.
We don't just because we want to be advisory. Obviously, that's what we want to be at the end of the day to the business. But you can't be advisory if you don't really know them, and if you're not actually humble enough to ask the questions that can maybe seem dumb, right? So I think I love that advice. I think that, again, it comes back to these little things that make a big difference, and relationship is that little thing that we don't think about. Leadership is that thing too as well. Like you can't have leadership without relationship, right? So again, you're hitting at the heart of, I think, the most important thing in a world where technology is ruling the day. Truth is, people want to connect with people, and people want to know that you care about what they care about. Active listening, discussion, and that's still the quintessential piece of what makes a recruiter essential to business. So I appreciate that you bring that up. I think it's so helpful for us to hear that, even in this climate. So looking ahead, how do you see recruiting evolving in the next 3 to 5 years for lean teams?
It's going to come down to technology. I mean, that's always going to be there. It's always evolving. It's always going to add something to our tool belt. But understanding that piece of it, that it is just another tool, and how can it save us time to go back to the relationships, right? Because in the end, you're still going to be dealing with people in the office, stopping at offices, at cubicles, and having those discussions. So if we can adapt to the technology that's coming, utilize it to its fullest capability, and with that comes being comfortable with change, right? Our world is ever changing in technology, and that just evolves companies left and right. And if you don't keep up, then you are going to be left behind. And so finding the right way to keep up, not fully invested in all technology. I don't ever want to have only video interviews with an AI recruiter. I don't want to do that, because I think that will differentiate people into the future. The more human touch you can have, the better it's going to be, because we're not going anywhere as people. It's just there's going to be more technology around us. So if we can find ways to connect with those communities outside of just the phone screen and the events we go to, the things that we do, is going to go so much of a longer way. I think soon, the bigger the network the recruiter has, the better off they're going to be. That they can rely on those relationships to jump in and then, use the tools that you have to speed things up along the way.
I think that's fantastic. We have to stay ahead of that. And I think you touched on something so important right there, that there is so much technology coming at us fast and furious, that it's not just about adopting new technologies, it's about implementing technologies and using those technologies. And it doesn't mean that you have to change your tech stack every 2 years. It just means it's good to know what's out there, and it's good to compare it to what we're working with, and are we fully leveraging what we have? I think you mentioned, I think you mentioning that was huge, because I think too many recruiters can get so excited about all the latest and greatest bells and whistles, but it's not just about new, implementing the next new thing. It's about actually, are you using the thing that is there, and is it supporting, at the end of the day, what you're saying is the most important thing? And I totally agree with you, which is building relationships. If it's not facilitating that, then who cares, right? So
yeah, I mean, we've probably all gone through an implementation that was poor, or we didn't, do our due diligence on bringing a technology in the right way, and then it slows you down even at that point. It's supposed to speed things up, but it slows you down because it wasn't done right, or it wasn't the right tool for us. It looked good in someone else's organization, but it just doesn't fit for you at this place, right, or whatever place. So it's doing it the right way, doing your due diligence, understanding what it is. Take all the demos you want in the world, but don't sign up for them all.
Right. Love it. This has been an absolute pleasure, Ryan. I think you've shared so much that is going to be so valuable to our audience, just about how to build a lean team that's proactive in a day and age where things are moving so quickly. And again, like you said, it comes back to relationship. In the future, there's going to be more tech, but relationships where it's at, and that's. It seems like Michael's really gets that, and it sounds like you've been able to build a great team that's really staying ahead of the needs, but also bringing value to the organization. And you've got an engaged group that's doing some great stuff. So just want to thank you again for being on the podcast, and for those of you who are listening in, Ryan, where could people find you if they wanted to follow you or reach out or talk to you?
Obviously LinkedIn, probably number one spot for on the career side. But we're always hiring at Michael's. So Michael's career site, we have avenues to get to someone in HR if you just want to talk and understand what we have. But overall, just connect on LinkedIn. Happy to chat about really anything that we got going on.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing that, and thank you to our audience if you've listened in this far. This has been a fantastic conversation with Ryan. Hope that you've learned a lot, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Right People, Right Places podcast.